Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome everyone. I am Keshav Samrat Modi, serving president at SPI CSI of Chandigarh chapter. I welcome you all. Today we have Dr. Rachel Vaughan, international editor at Nature Photonics Journal. She will give a today talk on how to write a manuscript and about that. So, and shortly, Dr. Umesh Tiwari sir, our chapter advisor, he will introduce her. And the schedule is like that. After the introduction, she will give her talk, and after that, there will be a question answer session. So, all the question, if you have any, kindly write down through the chat. Then Amit will read out those questions one by one to Dr. One. And after that, if your question is still remain, then you can unmute yourself. When every question will be taken from chat, then you can unmute yourself and direct your question to her. And after that, there will be a conclusion, and that will be whole talk. So now I request Dr. Umesh Tiwari to kindly introduce our speaker and give a brief introduction of our institute, CSIO. Thank you.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you, Keshav. So once again, I welcome you all to this session and our eminent speaker. I also welcome our head, Professor Samir K. Mendel, and all the participants. So I think I have already introduced the speaker and the attendees are already same. So I think now Professor Rachel Vaughan is a well-known personality in the optics and photonics fraternity. So I think she doesn't need now much introduction. I just for the benefit of our speaker, I like to introduce my institute. So I wanted to share some of the few slides. So with those slides, you may get even some other attendees also, they can get some of the glimpse of our institute. So
Yep.
I hope you can see.
Yep.
Okay. So
yes, sir. Full mode, sir.
Yeah. So basically, CSIR, CSIO. So CSIR stands for the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. CSIO is the Central Scientific Instrument Organization. So CSIR is a big R&D units of Government of India, and which basically constitute 38 laboratories all over the country. And here the CSIR is having so many achievements, and basically it is working in all the area of the R&D, starting from aerospace to chemical engineering to bioscience to environmental to water to fertilizers to petroleum. So in all the area, instrumentation, and then even plants, technology. So we are working even for the drugs, and so in every area CSIR is working. So we are the one of the national laboratory of the CSIR. So this institute, our CSIO, particularly founded in October 1959 and in Delhi, and later we moved to Chandigarh in 1962, and that is our CSIO is inaugurated by the president at that time, Dr. Zakir Hussain, and we have also established one of the Indo-Swiss training center at CSIO 1963, and that is inaugurated by our first Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And the mission of this institute is to be a leader at the national level for the designing and developing scientific and industrial instruments, instrumentation system and devices, that plays a lead role in providing repair, maintenance, and calibration services and training of instruments, technologies, and to be a custodian of the instrumentation activities in the country. So if you talk of like organization of our institute, so we have basically 7 different verticals, like those who are working in the agrionics, that is basically agriculture electronics, which is dealing with the instrumentation related to agricultures. Then we have a well-established division in biomedicals, which is taking care of all the instrumentation or need related to biomedical. We have a very established group in the optics that for the strategic sector. We have a photonics division which is working on the advanced sensors. Then analytical division which is working on the nano material and nanoscience. Then we have a very good division section in geotechnical, so which is taking care of all the needs of this seismic related activities in the country. And one, we have the human resource development, so where we are providing the manpower related, developing the PhD, MTech, and training of the various students of our countries from BTech, MTech, and from other branches. And then if you see the horizontal, so then we have a mechanical engineering, optical engineering, biomolecular engineering, electronics, computer, and IT. So this is the basically, if you see sector wise, so we are working in the agri sector, health sector, then application specific systems, public safety, energy, cockpit optics, standards and calibrations. So, and so this is basically HRD. So these are the some of the things. So this is basically our, and then if you see that particularly CSI on optics and photonics, so then we are working on the fiber grating, the sensor, setagraphy, automatic target recognition, then cockpit and aircraft instrumentation and software, optoelectronics, mechanical system, customized optical solution for industries, optical thin film, optical design, fabrication and metrology, freeform and hybrid optics, holographic optical elements, customized calibration setup. So with this, I welcome once again to our speaker, Dr. Rachel Vaughan, and I request her to deliver her talk. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you, sir, for the introduction. Now I request Professor Vaughan to deliver her talk.
Good. Thank you so much, Kashaf. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. Share. Okay. Yep. Okay. I have 2 screens on my presentation.
Okay,
Okay.
it's
Yeah,
question,
that's good.
question.
No, I think it's good now. It's good now. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you so much for the introduction to the CSIR and CSIO Institute. Yeah, it's very good to know more about the institute and what you're doing in terms of the optics and photonics. So yeah, I think very much the kind of things that you're doing match my background very much. Yeah, about my what I researched when I was doing my PhD, and also what I worked on when I was in Philips optical storage. Yeah, you know, the holographic optical elements. Yep, so all these things. Thank you so much for the introduction, Professor Tiwari, and also thank you so much to the SPIE student chapter in CISO for inviting me today to give a talk on writing and submitting your papers. So my name is Rachel Vaughan. So everybody can hear me, right? My name is Rachel Vaughan. I'm the international editor of Nature Photonics. So for those who didn't join the first talk I gave on Monday, on Tuesday, I just want to briefly introduce myself. So I'm originally from Malaysia. I studied for my bachelor degree in National University of Malaysia, followed by my master by research degree in Singapore. And then I came to Birmingham in the United Kingdom for my PhD study. So, and after my study, I worked for the university as a research commercialization officer to commercialize photonics research in my university. And then I joined Nature Photonics as one of the 4 founding editors in June 2006. Yeah, 6 months before the launch of the journal. And I was shipped to Tokyo for the journal because in the beginning of the journal's journey, we were actually based in Tokyo. And until January 2014, we moved the headquarters of Nature Photonics back to our London office. So, and since then, we have been based in the London office. But we have about, for Nature Photonics, we have about 4 editors. So only 2 of us are based in London. And we have 1 editor who is based in San Francisco and another editor who is still based in Tokyo office. So we are actually 4 editors covering 3 different continents. So you can find us everywhere. Okay, so, yep. So now just let me start my talk. So the title is about writing and submitting your papers. So in this talk, I'm trying to answer some of the questions that you may have when you are doing your research or when you are writing your papers. So I will try to answer some questions, for example, like, what is good research? Yeah, what is it about? And how to write a good scientific paper? What are the do's and don'ts when you are writing your papers? And after you write your paper, where should you submit to? I mean, where can you submit your papers to? And what kind of process your paper goes through after you hit the submit button? And why your paper is being rejected? I'm sure most of you would like to know why. And also, you would ask yourself if there's any second chance for the paper to be reconsidered by the journal who rejects your paper. So I will try to answer your question in this talk. And I would say that although this talk, I will put a little bit of introduction and also a little bit of details of nature and nature research journals, including Nature Photonics. But I would say that the procedure, the kind of guidelines can be applicable to most of the journals that you would like to submit to in the community, be it a journal from SPIE or OSA or APS or AIP or MRS. It should be, the guidelines should be applicable to most of the journals in the community. So, yeah. So, first thing I would like to say is, I think most of you agree with me that the steps to a great paper doesn't start. I mean, the path to lead to a good paper doesn't start at the point when you write the paper, but it actually starts way before you start writing the paper. So in nature research, we believe that there are 3 steps that lead to a great paper. So the first one is, as I said, it starts from the very beginning. You need to have a very thoughtful research. So think about what you should do, what kind of topic you should focus on before you start doing your research. That is the first step leading to a great paper. Then you should have a thorough preparation to carry out your research so that everything is in place and also, runs according to your plan. And later, when you have the results, you need to have very logical explanation to explain to people why you have this kind of outcome from your research. So if you have these 3 steps in mind and always keep them with you, they will lead you to have a very good paper for your research, for your publication. Yeah. So it doesn't only start at the point of writing a paper, but it starts way before that, before you do your research. Yeah. So I always say to people that before you write your paper, even better, before you start doing your research, you have to ask yourself these questions. So why does the topic interest you? So you have to think about it before you really start it. Don't waste your time, starting a research just to find out that, oh, actually 20 years ago, it was already researched by somebody else. So what you're doing now is actually repeating what people did before. So there's no point. So you have to ask yourself, do a little bit of research. Why does the topic interest you? So bear in mind that try not to do it just because your supervisor asked you to do it. because that is not a very good start. So you have to think about the question, think about the topic that you are given, and then do a little bit of research before you start. Yeah. And check what was thought, known, done before this work, before the work that you want to do. So just to make sure that you would be the first one to start this topic, not to repeat somebody's work. And when you have the research results in place, you have to ask yourself, what are the key findings of your work? What is so important about your findings that you want to share to people? So think about it properly. And what is the main message for the readers? So what actually you want to share to people after you have the results and then after you have the key findings and all these things? So what actually is the single main message that you want to share? Yeah. And the last question that you should ask yourself is, how does your result change the thinking or supports the current approach, or even better, open new avenues of research? So this is very interesting because, if this is something that will spark, like more research ideas, that will be very, very nice for the community. That means a lot. I mean, that means your research output is very meaningful to the community. So try to ask yourself some of these questions before you write a paper, and even better, before you start your research. So when you're preparing your paper, basically the main thing is how to get your points across to the people. Okay, you have to remember that when you're writing a paper, you're not just writing for the experts like you yourself, like experts in the field who knows a lot, but you're actually writing also for beginners. So they may not know anything about what you're doing and what you're doing, what you have obtained, what you have observed. So it's very important that when you're writing a paper, think about them. Give a very good introduction about the field of your research before you jump into the details of your work. Yeah, that is the main thing. Write for the beginners and the expert at the same time. So I would like to start for the preparation from the point of view of a title. So titles are very important, especially nowadays, because as you know, there's so many journals now in the community, and every day there's so many papers in optics and photonics are being published. So it's not so easy to make sure to get your papers noticed by the readers. So make sure that you have a titles that are very nice, very, 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 very attractive to lure your readers in, when they are browsing through the table of contents online or maybe on a hard copy. So don't try to put them off by, just skipping your paper. Yeah. So try to provide keywords. This is how people will find your work in the internet, in the Google, Web of Science, Scopus, yeah, all these search engine. So make sure that you put a very nice keyword in the title that your paper your paper is searchable. Yeah. So try to give a title that is clear and attractive, to lure the readers, and try to make sure that your title is short but precise and sweet enough, to get the attention. And make sure that it is not too general or vague, because people may just lose the attention because when it is too vague, they don't really know what you want to say, and they just can't be bothered to get into the abstract and the contents of your paper. So try to make sure that your title is not too general or too vague. And try to avoid the use of acronyms, numbers, and punctuations, because they can be distraction. And try to avoid complex compound nouns. So you always use it in the abstract or in the content introduction. So try not to use it in the title itself. And again, the readers may lose attention when they're browsing through thousands of titles a day. Yeah. So for the summary or the introductory paragraph, you have to remember to be also precise enough, but at the same time, not too much into the details of your work. So how to lose a reader at the introduction? If you're trying to write a thesis, thesis can be very thick, 100 pages. If you're trying to write a thesis instead of an intro, you instantly lose your readers. Yeah. And if you're trying to include too many unrelated branches of thought in one short summary paragraph, again, the readers will not stick to your paper anymore. They will just move on to the next paper. So try not to do this for the summary. And the best thing to do is, as I said, you have to write for both beginners and the experts. So try to introduce the field, clear a path for the reader to follow you. Make them interested about what your topic is about, to get into the introduction and contents of your paper. Yeah. So when we talk about abstract, I think most of you agree with me that abstracts are actually like mini papers. So if you look at the structure of a paper, okay, you start with introduction, and then you go to the problem that is being addressed. Yep. And then you talk about the methods and your results, and then followed by a summary and conclusions. So this is a typical structure of a paper. So if you look at the abstract, it's about the same thing. It's just shorter. So everything is condensed, like shortened in maybe 150 words. So, but the structure is the same. It's just like a mini paper. So first you give an introduction to the topic. Then you talk about the problem that's being addressed. You know, what are the open questions? What are the challenges in that specific topic? And then what have you tried to do? What have you demonstrated? Followed by what have you obtained? What are your results about? And then try to give some context and implication, you know, like conclusion, summary about how important your work is about in the abstract. So abstracts are just like mini papers, a shorter version of a paper. So in Nature and all the Nature research journals, we have this special Nature formula for abstract. It's very easy, and I think it's a very good guidelines for authors to follow. So we always say, when you're writing an abstract, start with a basic introduction to the field, which is comprehensible to other physicists, you know, beginners or experts or whoever that read your paper, followed by one sentence stating the general problem studied in the paper. So it's about what question, what challenges you're trying to meet, trying to solve. Yeah, what questions or what problems you're trying to solve. Followed by one or two sentences summarizing the research and the key results. So what actually you have been doing, what you have demonstrated, what results you have obtained, and lastly, one or two sentences explaining how the results add to the previous knowledge and put them into a more general context. So why you think your results are better than before? Yeah, you know, maybe you can give some comparison in this sentence, and then talk about how important, how significant your results are. You know, try to link to other field if you could, so that, you know, people from other fields may think, oh, actually your results can be very interesting for my field too, although we are not working in the same field. So that is a formula that we encourage authors to stick to when they're writing their abstract. So these are some tips as well I would like to share for abstract. So try to use active voice, like who did it, who demonstrated it, when you're talking about the work. So when you use active voice, it's very easy for people to recognize, oh, so you are the one that carry out the work. Oh, the previous people conducted these experiments before. So immediately people, the readers, will get a point like who did what, who do what. Yeah, so active voice is important in abstract. But sometimes, of course, you know, too many active sentences can be very weird. So you are allowed to use some passive voice. So when the action of the sentence is more important than who did it, for example, the materials or the methods are more important than who, the person who did it, you can use a passive voice. For example, the device is fabricated using a secret recipe. So this is the place that you can start using a passive voice, passive sentence. And try to remember to state the present work in present tense. So for your work, state in present tense. And for the published previous work, try to state it using past tense so that people know this is the past and this is the present. So, you know, immediately they know what it is about you are doing. And also try to express appropriate level of confidence when you're talking about your results. So, for example, using impossible, implausible, unlikely, plausible, possible, and probable, likely, or certain to express your level of confidence in your work. So if you're very, very sure about what your results are showing, just say, we are confident that this is happening. Yeah, don't try to be polite saying that we think it could be due to something. No, if you're confident about your interpretation, just say it loudly, you're confident. And try not to use we believe, because you should know what you're doing, not just you believe, you know, you believe what you're doing. So try to not to use we believe in the abstract. And so in the abstract, make sure that at least non-expert should get an idea of what you have done. So it's very important using the tips that I show you just now. So now we talk about the structure of a paper. So the same thing, if you look at the paper itself, it is like an expanded abstract. So again, the structure is about the same, like abstract, but it is just a lengthened, a longer version of abstract. More words, more pages to talk about your work. But the structure is about the same. So it starts with introduction. So to give a basic intro of the film, followed by the results, where you should focus on the single main questions, talk about your methods and your results, and followed by a discussion session where you provide a comparison and to clearly put your work into the context, and also to explain the importance of the findings in relationship to previous papers. Comparison, tell people how better your work is about the results and all these things. So these are in the discussion session. And the last one is conclusion. So that is the place that you give some potential impact of your work, and also some future work that you think may improve your research. Yeah. So if you look at the structure, so I would like to imagine it as an hourly glass shape. So you start from something very broad, so that people outside your field will get interested about your topic, followed by the detailed session where you start to talk about the details of your specific topic of your research. And then in the end, you try to broaden it out to talk about how your research results can impact other fields. So it is from the broad to the very detailed session, and then back to the broad session. So this is the structure that's a general structure that you should follow when you're writing a paper. So again, it is like an expanded abstract. So these are only some tips. So just want to share with you, when you're writing your paper, try to use simple, clear, and readable English. So don't try to use some very, like poetic English. You just need to use something very simple, people that can understand. Yeah. And use active voice if possible. Don't overuse acronyms. Try to avoid complex words if they are simple ones to use, so that people can understand immediately. And try to keep sentences short and clear. Yeah, we always see some mistakes from the manuscript. Authors try to use like many phrases, they join sentences in one sentence. So if you try to break out, it provides an easier way for the readers to understand, which we think is the most effective way to talk about your work, to explain the result. So try to keep sentences short and clear. And there are some things that you should avoid. So as I mentioned before, try to avoid vague titles. Yeah, people may lose attention. They may not read the paper. Yeah, and try not to hype, when you talk about your results and, the potential impacts of your work. Try not to tell fairy tales, because you have very limited space for you to talk about your work. So try to, stick to the main point. Yeah, not to write like a thesis or to tell fairy tales. When you make some claims, you have to make sure that you have sufficient evidence to support the claims you make, because very obviously the referees or the editors will pick it up, and they will think that your claims are not well supported, and the paper will be maybe rejected because of that. And also try to give good referencing, especially not to miss the papers that you should cite in your paper, especially when it comes to the papers by the referees. They know, you're not citing their papers. That is going to cause a big problem in the middle of the peer review process. So try to give good referencing, and try to provide good quality figures. So when I say good quality figures, well, I'm not talking about something that you use this kind of fancy software to draw the figures. I'm saying that you should provide as many data points as possible for your plot, for your results. Don't just have 3 data points and say, this is the result, and we think this is happening. So try to provide as many data points as possible, and also standard deviation, if you have any result or any data to share. Yeah. So these are the things that you should try to avoid when you're writing your papers. So when you finish writing your paper, you come to the point, okay, now I'm ready to submit my paper. Good. This is a very good start. So many people may forget, may not know how important a cover letter is for the submission of the paper. And I can tell you that many journals are now requesting a cover letter from the authors. So try to write a good cover letter during your submission. Yeah, for your submission. So cover letter is a letter that you submit together with your manuscript, but in a separate file, only readable to the editors. So not the reviewers, not the readers, only to the editors. So that is a space that you can talk about anything about your paper, how important your results is, why the paper is for this journal, and then later when it is after the peer review process, you can also talk about the reviewers if you want. So that is a space, very, very confidential letter to be read by the editors only. So authors are encouraged to write cover letter, and that is a space that you restate the main message and the significance of your paper. So try to, sell the paper in the cover letter, and try to explain in clear and simple terms why the findings are important and what is their potential impact, and also why it is suitable for that particular journal that you are submitting to. Yeah. And that is also the space that you can suggest some referees for the peer review process, and also to exclude referees or competitors that you do not want us to use to review your paper for us. So that is a space to suggest and to exclude referees. And it is very important to make use of this space to do that, because it may have some impact on the peer review process. Yeah. So then the next point is you will ask yourself, there's so many journals now, because of many launches recently, as you can see from these slides. So we have not just Nature Photonics for optics and photonics field, but also we have Advanced Photonics by SPIE, we have Optica, Optics Letters by OSA, and also Optical Engineering by SPIE, and also we have APL, Applied Physics Letters. And many journals are now publishing optics and photonics research. So you may have this question or problem like selecting which journal to go to. And also these journals, they overlap each other. They cover the same kind of topics for publications. So I think the most important thing to do is ask yourself. Ask yourself. You are the one to decide which journal you want to submit to. So you have to ask yourself which audience you want to target to. So if your paper is more into material science, maybe you should submit to a more material science orientated journal. If your paper is more into it's optics, but maybe more into nano optics or maybe nanotechnology, maybe you should think about nanotechnology based journals. So you should ask yourself which audience you want to target to for your paper. And also it depends on the journal, the editorial scope of the journal. So it's better that I would advise you, before you submit your paper to a journal, try to read the editorial scope of the journal to see if, your work is some kind of work that they would like to see in the journal. And also try to see the previous publication from the journal, just to get a little bit of feeling whether, your paper is suitable for them, fits into the journal. So check the journals and ask yourself about your target audience. Yeah. And then make a decision on which journal you want to submit to. So, for example, for Nature and Science, they are for the broadest or deepest impact. So if you think your work is very important and very impactful, not just for the optics and photonics community, you should consider submit to Nature or Science, this kind of multidisciplinary research journal, so that it can be read by everybody in the research community, not just optics and photonics. So if you have the confidence, it is very impactful, aim high. Yeah, because if it is rejected by Nature or Science, you can always submit to other journals, go downward. But when you submit to some other journals, it may, for example, if you submit to Nature Photonics about your work, if it is very nice, I'm not going to recommend you to go to Nature, because I'm going to publish your work in Nature Photonics. So think about it yourself, where you should submit to. If you believe it is very impactful, aim high. Yeah. So I would like to take a few slides just to introduce you to Nature and Nature research journals. So I'm sure most of you know about Nature. It is a flagship journal of Nature Publishing Group. The first ever issue was published on the 4th November 1869. So we are celebrating the 151st anniversary now, first anniversary now for Nature. And Nature is now the world's most highly cited multidisciplinary science journal. So if you read Nature journal, this journal, the weekly journal, you will find that there actually isn't much space for many papers, maybe about 15 to 20 papers a week. So in order to cope with the limited space of Nature and also to keep on publishing good research from the community, from different communities, Nature Publishing Group decided to launch more journals. So as you can see from these slides, there are many journals from the Biological Sciences division of Nature Publishing Group. For example, there are Nature Genetics, Biotechnology, Cell Biotechnology, Immunology, Chemical Biology, Nature Methods, Nature Neuroscience, Nature Medicine, Nature Structural and Molecular Biology. So these are the journals from the Biological Sciences of the Nature Publishing Group to keep on publishing good works from these communities. Yeah. And recently, or back in 2002, Nature decided to launch journals in the physical sciences. Yeah, with the same aim of publishing good research from the physical sciences communities. Yep. So, for example, we have Nature Materials, Nature Physics, Nature Technology, Nature Photonics, Nature Geoscience, Nature Chemistry, Nature Climate Change, Nature Energy, and many more. I will show you later. So these are the journals from the Physical Sciences division of Nature Publishing Group. So about Nature Photonics, which is a journal that I'm working on, it was launched in January 2007. It is a monthly journal that publishes peer-reviewed, top-quality research in all areas of photonics. Anything that is to do with light, we are interested. And it is a journal that contains a unique mixture of research paper, review articles, news and views pieces, business news, and market analysis. So it is not just a pure research papers journal, but it's more like a magazine that covers everything, including research papers and also news from other journals, also from the market, from the business side of optics and photonics. And Nature Photonics covers both fundamental optical physics and also the applied photonics technology in one single issue. So we are interested in many topics. Yep, I'll tell you in my next slide. So just to introduce to you the editorial team of Nature Photonics. As I mentioned in my talk on Tuesday, we are a very small team. So for Nature Photonics, just 4 of us, and we are the editors that who read the papers that from the community, and we make decision, and then we run the journal, just 4 of us. So we have, as I said, 2 of us, Oliver and I, we are based in London. Our colleague David, he's based in San Francisco, and Noriaki is based in Tokyo. So collectively, as you can see from the years we joined, collectively we come with more than 50 years of experience in running this journal, Nature Photonics, for the community. So yeah, we are very happy and working together as a team, and we are very happy to see, the fruition of Nature Photonics and also the contribution of Nature Photonics to the community. Yeah. So this is the editorial scope of Nature Photonics. As I mentioned before, we are interested in both fundamental optical physics and also the applied side of photonics research. So for example, it can be something very fundamental like nonlinear optics, quantum optics, can be nanophotonics, it can be ultra-fast photonics, terahertz optics, and it can be also very applied like spectroscopy, lasers, imaging, displays, PV technology, solar cell, optical fiber communications, optical fiber sensors, optical data storage, or optoelectronic devices. So anything that is to do with light, we are interested in publishing. So if you're doing optics or photonic research, you can find, the space in this journal. So, so this is just to show to you after Nature and Nature research journals, we also have other journals as well for you to choose from, for your submission. So we have Nature Communications. We also have communications journals, for example, communication physics, communication chemistry, communication biology, and we also have scientific reports for you to submit to. And recently we have some new launches as well, like Nature Biomedical Engineering, Nature Astronomy, Nature Electronics, Nature Reviews Physics, Nature Machine Intelligence, and we have many more like Nature Food, Nature. Yeah, we have many more launches now. So you will, if you want to know more about them, you can always go to the Nature Publishing Group website to have a look. Yeah. So in all the Nature journals, okay, if you make a mistake by submitting to a wrong journal in Nature family, it's not the end of the world, because we have this kind of system that we call manuscript transfer system that allows you to transfer from one Nature journal to the next Nature journals, including Nature itself. So the declined manuscript can be transferred to other Nature research journals by clicking a link, just a link. So remember, all the Nature journals are editorial independent. So we don't discuss, we don't have the same kind of editorial criteria for the papers that we want to publish. So a rejection from one journal in Nature family does not mean a rejection from other Nature journals in the Nature family. So it is totally independent, and as I said, we have our own selection criteria. So a paper that is rejected by Nature doesn't mean Nature Photonics doesn't want it. So that's why we have this transfer system for you to transfer your paper from one Nature titles to the next Nature title. Yeah. So by using this transfer function, you can transfer the cover letter, manuscript, and supplementary information files to the next journal by just clicking the link. Yeah. And when you have review reports, it's optional. It's up to you whether you want to transfer the review reports to the next journal. So my advice is, if the review reports are positive, may not enough for one Nature title, but the comments are actually quite positive, transfer them to the next journal. But if the review reports are very damning, very negative, I would advise you to keep them to yourself, not to transfer. So this system is very flexible because you have the option to transfer or not to transfer your review report. So you are the one to make the decision. So it's very flexible. Yeah. And of course, you still would like to transfer your paper as a fresh manuscript if you do not want to share the history of the submission in Nature family to the next Nature. So you can always submit your paper as a fresh manuscript at any time. So it's really your choice, your decision to make. Yeah. So transferring without review, the journal that you transfer to will get a copy of the letter sent to you by the editor. Yeah. So they will see why it is not sent out for review. And for transferring post-review, the journal that you transfer to will get additionally a copy of the reviews along with the referee identities. As I said, it's up to you. You can choose not to share them, not to share the review reports, not to share the referee identities. You make the choice. And the editors will then decide whether to consider the paper further using the reviews to inform their decision. So sometimes we will make a decision to seek for more opinions from additional referees, not to use the referee reports from the previous journal. So we will judge when we will make editors will judge and will make a decision based on the review reports that are transferred from the last journal. So we will make a decision to use additional referees or not to use. As I said, do not transfer the paper if the review, do not transfer the review reports if the reviews are not too good. Yeah. So we do not know if the papers has been reviewed elsewhere unless you let us know. So it's a very flexible transfer system for you to facilitate the author submission process. Yeah. So now your paper is with the journal, so it will come to the point that maybe it will be sent out for peer review. So now I just would like to share with you the cycle that your paper goes through after you hit the submit button. Yeah, for the submission. So this is the general cycle that your paper will go through in Nature and all the Nature journals. And I would say that more and more journals in the community now are using the same kind of procedure. More and more journals are now becoming more selective. So they also incorporate an editorial screening stage during the submission process. So that's why I say this cycle is becoming more general now, for not only for Nature journals, but also for other titles as well in the community, like journals by OSA or by SPIE or, for other societies. So I just would like to share with you. So once the submission is coming in, editors will carry out an assessment to see if your papers are interesting enough, to be sent out for reviews. If there is any potential advances in terms of conceptual understanding or technological performance, to potentially warrant a publication in the journal. If that is the case, editors will make a decision to send your paper out for external review. If that is not the case, the editors will just make a decision to reject your paper outright at that point. Yeah, for Nature and all the Nature journals, typically it's about 80% of the paper will be will be rejected by the editors and to the authors, not to be sent out for peer review process. So about 20% of the paper will be sent out for peer review process. And normally we try to inform the authors within 7 to 10 days time so that, you can go somewhere else without wasting much time with us. Yeah. So, and when your paper is being sent out for external peer review, we normally try to find 3 reviewers to review the papers for us, and we give them about 2 weeks time to do the review. Yeah, and when we get the review reports from the reviewers, we will make a decision whether to decline your paper or not to decline your paper, to ask you for revision before another resubmission. Yeah, this is the stage that we call editor decision, and we do not just make the decision based on the reviewers reports, because we also take into account our editorial criteria when we make this decision. So when we do not think it is something for us, we will just decline. But if we think we would like you to come back to us, we ask you to revise. And normally the acceptance rate for Nature and Nature titles is about 10%. 10% of the total submission for the journal. Yeah, will be published eventually. So when a revised version comes in, we will go through the same cycle again, editorial assessment to see if you have addressed the concerns raised by the referee satisfactory. Yeah. And then, so what makes a great paper? So this is a very important slide. So for Nature and Nature journals, when the editors receive a manuscript from you, from the authors, we always read through all the papers. All the papers, every paper we receive, we read them carefully, and we will try to always to see if the report is if the paper is reporting something with high degree of novelty or innovation. If you are giving us giving the community a new idea, something that hasn't thought before by the community, we will try to find that, novelty. And the next thing that we are trying to find is if your work is interesting to a broad range of readers. So not just to a very specific community, but if your paper is interesting for many people in the community. So that's the next element we are looking for. And the next 3 ingredients we want to see are if you're reporting something with significant step forward, for example, like any breakthrough in technological performance, or if your paper is reporting some very high impact in the field. So these are the next 3 ingredients that we want to see from your paper. And we also try to see if you're reporting something with important advance in scientific understanding that will provide new direction for research. So that is very interesting. As I mentioned in the very beginning, if your research is going to spark a very new path, a very new idea to the community, that is something that everybody wants to see. Yeah. And also, we want to make sure that you are providing data that persuasively support conclusions that you made, your claims. Yeah. So these are the 7 things that we look through when we are reading your papers after your submission. So of course, most of you will say how to get new ideas and also advance in technological performance in the same paper. It's not so easy, right? And we understand that. We never ask you to provide so many advances in one paper. So for Nature and Nature journals, we always say to the authors, we just want to have one advance. So it's either conceptual advance or technological advance. So you don't need to have 2, but if you have 2, that would be perfect. But we just need to have one advance. If you have new ideas, good. If you don't have good ideas, but you have very good technological performance, by many orders of magnitude, that is also very good. So just one advance from your work, and plus your work is interesting, and plus you are providing very convincing results to support your claims. So these 3 elements will be enough to lead to a publication in Nature and Nature titles. Yeah, so it's a very simple formula. Conceptual or technological advance plus interesting plus convincing, that will be a publication. Yep. So when we send your paper out for review, we need to find some referees. So you may have the question, how the editors look for referees? So of course, the first thing that we try to rule out is the referees that we want to review the papers for us are independent from the authors. So it can't be the family members or the relatives or buddies, good friends of the authors. So we have to check that. And you may have the question, how do you know, editors? So how do you know that who is my friend, who is not my friend? So we gather information from all kinds of sources. So it can be from conferences that we attend. It can be from the previous papers that you published before. So like from the search engine and all these things. And also from lab visits. We get to know the kind of people that you are friends with, you're buddy with. And also we listen to many conversations from people at conferences, and also at lab visits. So, we listen to gossip as well. So we know who should be the best person to review the paper for you, who shouldn't review the paper for you because of potential competing factor, or maybe potential conflicts of interest, basically. Yeah, we will rule that out, the first thing. And also we look at technical expertise of the particular potential referee to see that, to make sure that it matches the paper, the topic of the paper. And we also want somebody with very broad overview of current trends and important issues. So to tell us why your paper can be very important, significant to the community. Yeah. And we want something who can give us reports, who can provide us report within the time, the deadline, not somebody who is too slow. Yeah, if they're too slow, we may not reuse them in the future peer review process. Yeah. And of course, we want somebody who is thorough and who can provide us to the points reports. Yeah, a detailed report, a thorough report, explaining why the paper is interesting or explaining why the paper is not for us. Yeah. And we want somebody who has a fair mind and also with a very constructive suggestion to the paper. Yeah. So these are the criteria the editors will go through when it comes to the selection of the referees for the peer review process. So, so when it comes to decision making for Nature and Nature titles, our decisions are independent and fast. Okay, purely because there is no editorial board, there is no scientific affiliation. In this case, and we editors are full-time editors in Nature and Nature titles. We are all full-time editors working solely for the journals. We are not tied to any institute, any university. We are not doing research. We are focusing on assessing the work, the submission from the community. So our decisions are independent because we are not going to competing with you. So that is not the case. And we are fast because our job is to assess manuscript. So, and as I mentioned just now, referees provide guidance about the technical accuracy and significance, but ultimately, the judgment about which papers best suits the readership is made by the Nature editors or Nature Research Journals editors, not the referees. As I mentioned, we only take the review reports as guidance, and then we will take our editor criteria into account when it comes to the decision making, whether to publish a paper or not. Yeah. And we never try to count votes in this case, by plus minus, and then we make a decision. No, we read all the review reports and then we make a decision. Yeah. So these are some of the common reasons for rejections because, obviously, if your paper is rejected, you are not happy. You would like to know why. So I just would like to share with you, these are some of the common reasons. So the first one is the failure to meet the editorial criteria for discipline. So that's why I say it's very important that before you submit to a journal, read the editorial scope and also read the previous publication by the journal, just to make sure that you have the feel of what papers the journal is publishing. Yes, and to make sure that if your paper is fitting well in the journal. Yeah. So this is the first reason. And there is also possible that you are reporting only incremental advance over published literature. So it is just very incremental advancement over. Yeah, so it's not something that we would like to see. And maybe your paper is lack of some new insights because it's not surprising. It's quite well known. So it's not something new to us, new to the readers, new to the community. Or maybe your results or maybe your findings are new, but maybe they're not large enough step in the field. So it's just an incremental step. So it's not something that we want to see. And another thing is it could be only interesting to specialists in a subfield. So it's because journals like Nature and Nature research journals can be read by a wide community, like for example, wide community of photonics community. So we do not want something that is too specific, too niche for the wider photonics community. So the paper will be rejected based on this reason. And also, if there isn't any broad conclusion in your paper, that is also something that we do not want. Of course, if there are technical concerns like technical flaws and also something that challenges the technical validity of your results of your claim, that is something that we do not want to see in the journal. And of course, if your results are a little bit too preliminary, and you need to do more work, we may ask you to do more work before a resubmission. So that is another reason. We will reject your paper. So when after the peer review process, there are some possible editorial decisions that you will receive from the editors of the journals. So of course, the first one is very good. It is to accept a paper with or without editorial revision. That is very straightforward because basically it will be published. But most of the time, you will be asked to do a revision. So we will ask you to address some concerns raised by the referees before we publish your work. That is also quite a positive decision letter. The third kind of decision could be reject, but sometimes we think that there is a potential in your work, but maybe the results are a little bit too early to preliminary, and we want you to do more work or maybe more experiments, more simulation to support the claims. We will ask you to go back and do more work and come back to us for a resubmission. So that is a kind of rejection that we say a rejection with open door. So you still have the option to come back to us because we still think that your paper is interesting, but we need you to do more work. And the fourth kind of decision, rejection outright. So that means, basically we just don't think your paper is for us and we do not want to waste your time. We think it's better that you go to other journals. So in that case, you're advised not to submit to the same journal, again. So try to consider other journals. So, and of course, you have this kind of anger, when your paper is rejected by a journal. So you will ask yourself, can I appeal? So can I, challenge the decision of the editors or the reviewers? Of course, you can always appeal after every decision, whether it is a decision by the editor or whether it is before the peer review process or after the peer review process. So for after the peer review process, if you feel that the decision was based upon factual errors or flawed interpretation of your findings, by the reviewers, you can always come back to the editor and explain to them why you think so. And if you believe that you are able to completely address all the criticism with new data, go back to the journal and explain to the editors why you think you can do so and why you think they are not the big problems. So I always say to the authors who intend to appeal, try to come back with scientific reasons, okay? Scientific reason, not just some, non-scientific reason. So I'll explain to you later. So appeals are always discussed with other members of the team. So, and that's why normally it may take longer to reply to you because of discussion, and also because we give priority to new submission. So we will read through the new manuscript before we come to the appeal. So sometimes it takes quite some long to get back to you for your appeal. So you just need to be patient in this case. So so when you do the appeal, try not to phone the editors because I think it's better just to write everything down in an email to the editors to explain why you believe that the referees or the editors have overlooked or misunderstood your something in your paper, and try to give scientific reasons. Don't try to complain like referees are not fair. This referee is rubbish. So this is the reason, one of the reasons we will not consider your appeal. And we do not want you to guess the referee's identity and then followed by personal attacks. So because it's not rational to do that, and there is no reason to back up your appeal in this case. And don't try to tell us how important your work is because somebody very important in the field endorse your work very much. So we do not care about that because we care about the contents of your work, not the endorsement by somebody else. And don't try to come back with some cosmetic rewriting, just to tell us that you have addressed concerns raised. And also, don't try to tell us how important you are, how many invited talks you have given, and how many awards you have been given. So this is not going to help the appeal. And last, but not least, try not to say something like our paper is better than the horrible paper X that you published in 2000 something. So that is not going to help either, because as I mentioned many times, you have to provide scientific reasons to support your appeal. So try to tell us why we have misunderstood or overlooked your point, why the referees are maybe there's a misunderstanding or miscommunication. So try to give us some scientific reasons to support your appeal. Yeah. So I think that is everything that I would like to talk about, from how to write a paper to how to the do's and don'ts, and also where to how to write a cover letter, where to submit, which journal to choose, and then the peer review process, editorial process, followed by decisions, and also the kind of appeals, the appeals that you can make. So I hope you have a better idea now at the end of this talk. And this is the last slides that I just want to share with you. The latest news that was announced on the 24th of November, which is Tuesday. 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 So I'm sure most of you have perhaps are aware of this already. So now Nature and 32 Nature journals, research journals, are to offer open access options from the January 2021. And I just want to quickly share with you the numbers of the APC, the article processing charge. It's about 9,500 euros for one article to be published open access, or 11,250 US dollars, and or 8,290 pounds. Yeah, for your paper to be open access. And we also have this option as well, which is called guided open access. That's half the APC. So it is still in a trial run. So we still not open to all the journals. It is only open for 6 journals. So Nature Physics, Nature Genetics, Nature Methods, and Nature Communication, Communication Physics, and Communications Biology. So this only for a trial run for these 6 journals. And for this guided open access, there is a non-refundable assessment plus review fee of 2,190 euros. And if your paper is accepted for publication, there will be 2,600 euros to top up, and or 800 euros to top up if it is in a communication journal. And of course, the traditional subscription-based route is still open as an option for people who can't afford this article processing charge. Yeah. So this is just the latest news that we'd like to share with you. Yeah. So thank you so much for attention. So this is my these are my contact details at Nature, and also Twitter, and also our journal's website and our journal Twitter accounts. Thank you for attention. Now I'm happy to take any questions from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Wong.
Yep.
It is a very insightful talk. Now I request Amit to kindly take the question answer session.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you. First question from chat box. Feeling is that to publish in Nature, you have to invite some of the editors to visit your labs and convince that you have been enough facility to produce the result. What is your comment?
I do not agree. I do not agree. You know, for example, for Nature Photonics, as you see, we are only 4 of us. We are only 4 of us, 4 editors. So how many labs can we visit in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? If we rely on, to be convinced by the authors during the lab visits, that means we are very limited. That means we are limited. We limit ourselves to a very small number of labs. So I do not agree this is the way to get your papers published. So to visit the lab is for the editors to get to know your research better. To know your research, to know what you're doing, is not to be impressed by your facility. And also, it's also to provide us some knowledge about what you're doing, what your expertise is about, what your lab is about, is doing, so that when it comes to the review process, we may think of you as a potential reviewer. So yeah, so it's for us to learn about your research, and for it's also for us to make use of you if we need to help for the peer review process. Yeah, not to be
Thank you,
impressed
ma'am.
by your facility. Yeah.
If anybody having query, please unmute themselves and ask their query from ma'am directly.
Amit, there is another question.
Okay. Ma'am, next question. Do you something regret not to consider some work?
Yeah, okay. I have to say that, editors are human, we are just human. We are just like, we are normal. So sometimes we make mistake. Yeah, but we try not to. But so sometimes, yep, it's true. We sometimes regret we missed some very good work, and then eventually it was published in some other journals and all these things. But, we just try to do our best not to miss any good work as much as possible. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Russell,
Yes, sir.
I have one small query. Yeah, I have a small query. Basically, it is related to, you see, most of the times, even you have also observed the paper submitted from India to the Nature, particularly the rejection ratio is quite high. What is your opinion? Like, where do you see, like, is it really because of some problem in the, like, technicality, innovation, novelty, and the same, like, if the same author, they are working in the foreign universities and their acceptance chances are quite high, and they are getting the publication. You might have seen this.
Yep. So I would say that if you say that the acceptance rate or successful rate from a country can be quite low, if you say that, I think it is not. If this is the case, it is not only applicable to India. If you look at other countries, it can be also quite low. And you say that some countries have a higher successful rate, it is not only applicable to a specific country, it can be for other countries as well. So it's quite general in this case. So if we talk about low successful rate, as I said, India is not the only one. If you look at other countries, it is also happening. So I think there can be because of many factors. So it could be first research, good research from the country. So we need to know whether the research being done is good enough. And that is, I think that happens everywhere, not just from a low successful rate country. It can be any institute, it can be any university. It's just that you do not pay attention to check or to investigate, but it happens everywhere. But we think there are some reasons that lead to that. It could be because maybe the institute is not aware of what the journals want from the institute, from the community. So maybe you have very, very nice work that you can publish in like high impact journals, or maybe some good journals. But because you do not know that you can actually try that, maybe because you don't have the confidence, maybe you do not know the way to do it, you just move away yourself to go to other journals. So that could be one of the reasons why good work from the institute is not published in very good journal, but actually it's very good work. And another reason could be the presentation of the manuscript. So as I said, expert, you are the expert in the field. So when you write paper, you tend to think about experts only because you know everything about what you're doing. So you jump into the details, you start to talk about your work, in a very in-depth way. So you forget that you can actually make it more readable to beginners, make it readable for wider community. So if the presentation of a manuscript is general enough and also detailed enough, general enough to attract the wider readership, and also detailed enough to attract the expert, it is a first step to a successful publication in a good journal. Yeah. So that could be the one of the factors as well. So that's why I think lab visit is very important. First is for the editors to learn about your research. Okay, it's just like that's why I asked you to give me a presentation about the institute, because I want to know what you're doing. Yeah, that's why it's very important for me to know. So lab visits and this kind of interaction is important so that I know what you're doing. And if I can see any potential good research, I would encourage you to submit to us. And then when I do the lab visits, I can also give you some like methods to write a good paper, to make your paper outstanding, for journals, for good journals to publish. So that's why I think it's very important here to know the reason, to know the factors, and so lab visit is also important, to help. Yeah.
But in my it is my own opinion, and even I have observed also, and sometimes the people, those who are from the big groups, like in US and some other countries also, if the paper are going for the nature, easily they are getting accepted from the big group. I know, like of course they have very good facilities and all those things that is there, right? I accept that. That's no issue, right?
Yeah,
So
of course.
Yeah. So it is so also like that. The papers from the big groups, like those who are already maybe they are reviewers and editors, maybe not the editor but the reviewers, big people. So
Yeah.
their
So
acceptance rate is very high.
yeah, I think you agree, right? So if a facility, a university has many facilities, generally they come up with better results because of the facilities. But it doesn't mean that we are interested only in the papers that are submitted from these big facilities. So they do get rejected. Yeah. So one thing that you have to know, we reject many papers from big university, big names as well. But maybe these people, these big names, they don't share with you. So that's why you don't know about the rejection experience. It's just because they don't share. Yeah. So, but I can tell you that we reject many papers. I mean, from them. Yeah. So of course there will be successful publication. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that we only focus on them.
And my last this thing is like in the recent past we have seen the many of the Nobel Prize winning work is from the not the Nature publication but from the very other journal, even the optics communication, and then OL optics later, and even this the recent this work is author asking is also not for the Nature. But earlier in the if you say the way back, like most of the Nobel Prize winning work is from the Nature.
No, not really. I don't think so. I think if you look at the papers by, is it the laser paper or laser paper? It is not published in yeah. No, not really, not really. I wouldn't say so. Yeah, it can be from other journals as well. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
For insightful lecture and your thought-provoking this interactive session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Any more questions?
Next question from chat box, ma'am.
Yeah.
You do not believe there is some strong network of authors for nature, science, and publication?
Nope. Nope. As editors, we are always impartial. Because as I said, we are not tied to any universities, we are not tied to any institute. We assess a paper based on the merit of the paper itself. So as I said to Professor Tiwari, we reject papers, even from papers from big names, even from papers that we, people that we know, maybe from conferences, from workshop. Yeah. So there is no special treatment here. Yeah. And as I said, these people may not share with you their rejection experience. That's why you don't know, but they are rejected. Yeah.
Hi, Rachel. Yeah, it's a nice talk.
Thank you so much, Samil.
Informative also. So, just a question: why don't this nature, take the policy of double blind reviewership?
Oh, okay. Why do we take this? You mean why do we or why do we not?
Why do you avoid?
Okay, I can share with you. Yeah, okay. So I think because of before we had this double blind, there's a disturb. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
There's an echo here. Yeah. Okay, so just want to share with you. This one you're sharing. Okay, so I'm sharing this one with you. So I think most of the people requested this kind of double-blind peer review because especially, you know, like from small groups of small research groups or small universities, they think that there is a potential bias towards them for being so small, being not well known. So they requested this kind of double-blind peer review so that they are not the authors are not known to the reviewers when it comes to the peer review process. So for Nature journals, we think it's always good to give this kind of options to people. So so now we have this kind of double-blind peer review process for Nature Communication. We started with Nature Communication, and now for all the Nature journals, we have the double-blind peer review option for you to choose from. So it's an option open up for all the authors. So it's up to you. So the initiative is to remove potential or perceived bias from reviewers against individual authors, and so that the reviewers cannot see you and you don't know the reviewers. So it's like a fair game, yeah, in this case. So we do have this option for the authors, yeah, in Nature and Nature journals.
No, that's fine. But I think, okay, there are a lot of, rumors that, and of course, at some point there is also some controversies about the Nature publications. Maybe some 10 years from now, if you remember, there was some German scientist got involved in similar kind of thing. Yeah. So, I mean, at least for a certain period, why don't, instead of giving an option that double blind, why can't you make it compulsory?
No, I think it's very important. I think it's very important that this remains as an option. So for people who do not want this kind of double peer review, they still have the choice, you know? So I think it's good to have a system.
More people on the complaining side. So I think it would be better to take the favor side of the complaining sides.
Yeah.
I want to say that more people or more researchers are on the side of complaining that there are strong network, you have to invite the editors to showcase what facilities you have and all these things. First you are get some sort of recognition from them, and then probably the chance will be higher.
Yeah, no, I do not think so, because sometimes it will still be a rejection after a lab visit. Yeah. So as I say, we take the merit of the submitted paper into account, not the facility, not the background story of the author or the university. Yeah. So there are still rejections even after lab visit.
I agree. It's debatable, and I agree, I don't agree. Another point I just want to say that sometimes this Nature publication, they don't even refer some very important works in their work.
Yep.
And we also have some experience similar like that. And even once we approach to the editor, that sometimes that we send this paper to you, this one of the Nature, and you didn't, you didn't feel that it is good enough for that Nature publication. But then in 6 months, some paper published, which has taken the concept from that paper, but has not referred that work as well. So how you deal all these things?
I think
I can send and once I also wrote to the Nature editor that I sent this paper this time, and this was your response. 6 months from that time, you got another similar paper, and you have published in your journal. And unfortunately, I would say that they have taken the concept from our work, But to misguide the readers, they are not even refer our work. So what is your comment, or what is your, but he didn't reply back. He didn't reply back.
I think for editors, we are trying to make sure that we make the right decision when it comes to a rejection or when it comes to the decision of sending a paper for peer review process. So we always make a decision based on the time of the submission of the paper. And of course, sometimes this can be very subjective, especially to the authors, like why my work is better and you didn't send out, but now you're sending out this paper. So it is quite subjective here. So I can't really comment on this based on the, specific paper. But as editors, we always try not to overlook, not to miss any good work, from the authors.
I have another point. I agree that, I accept that. But what I want to say that at least in the new paper, they should refer the old.
I understand that sometimes when this kind of thing happens, if we receive correspondence from the community, for example, from you, to tell us about why this paper using my technique and it is published and not citing my paper, you can always write a letter to the editors, and the editors will try to look into the matter, and also sometimes we also discuss with the reviewers to see if it is advisable to add this paper as a reference. We do this kind of follow-up work. If we think it is needed. So if you have this kind of issue, it is good that you write to the editor.
But do you also reply back, whatever it could be?
Sorry?
Do you also reply back to the person, to the scientist who complains about this?
It is your decision to make. It is your decision to make if you want to talk to the authors. But at the end, if to add the reference, to add the paper as a citation, it is for the editors to make, right? So you still have to contact the editors. And then the editors will judge everything, will assess everything, may involve the reviewers for discussion. Before a decision is made. But you can always write to the editor.
Now my question is, I wrote, but I didn't get any email back from the editor. So what should I? So that I'm saying, isn't that become?
You can always write another email.
Okay, even if my my question is not right one, and the paper is very different, but still I would expect some email response from the editor.
I mean, you can always email the editor again to ask for a reply. Whether the editor is investigating or whether the editor just thinks it is not necessary for the citation. You can always ask the editor to reply.
No, but I think by default there should be some policy that, okay, editor will reply instead of. I mean, I feel also not good to change the editor, repeatedly.
But I think if you want an answer from them, I mean, just write to them again.
Okay. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Amit, kindly take next question.
Next question, ma'am, for chat box is, what about if editor is one of the author in manuscript? How do you handle at editorial level?
Sorry, say again.
What about if an editor is also an author in manuscript? How do you handle at editorial level?
It is highly unlikely that the editor is one of the authors in a manuscript, because we are full-time editor. As I said, we are the full-time editor, working only for the journals. So we are not involved in any research at universities or at institution. So it is very unlikely that our name is in the manuscript. But said that, I remember there was one occasion that one of the editors, many years ago, there was one editor also acted as a maybe a visiting lecturer or something like that for a university, or maybe just before he joined a journal as an editor, he had some collaboration, remaining work in a university, and when the paper was submitted, his name was included. His or her name was included as part of the author list in the manuscript. If that is the case, we basically do not ask the editor to handle that paper. We even blind the editor out from the whole editorial process. So in the system, this particular editor will not see the decision-making process, the peer review process, the reviewer identity, anything. Yeah, he will be blinded out from the whole process in the manuscript system. Yeah, if this is the case. But as I said, it is very unlikely that editors appear as an author in the manuscript.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question from chat box is, what is the major reason behind the multiple rejection of any paper? Is that the idea behind the work or presentation of novelty of the work? Which one play more important role behind the multiple rejection?
Multiple rejection by a single journal, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, multiple. So we editors in the nature journals, we always try to avoid, a lengthy editorial and peer review process, because we just want to save time, because we know that authors always look for rapid publication. So we try to avoid multiple rejections on a paper. Yeah, but if you really feel that your paper is rejected multiple times, I don't think it's possible, because if we reject, we reject. If you ask you to revise, you revise. If you reject again, that will be the last rejection. And definitely, we will not reject a paper based on the art presentations, all these cosmetic reason. No, yeah, we will only reject a paper based on the common reason that I listed in my presentation. Like there's no new idea, incremental advance. You don't have a completing data, or the topic may not be interesting for the wider readership, or maybe the results are a little bit too preliminary that you need to do more work before resubmission. So these are the common reasons for rejection. We will not reject it because you have poor figures, like not without 3D representation of your experimental setup. No, that is not the case. Yeah. And definitely we try to avoid multiple rejection.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question from chat box is, have you blacklisted anyone
from
submitting the paper?
No. We do not blacklist anybody from submitting papers to us, but we do make a remark if an author has this kind of record before by doing duplicated submission, like submitting to the same work to 2 journals at the same time. So if this is the case, and if we find out, we will make a remark and we will warn the authors about this duplicated submission. Yeah, because this is not allowed, because it's very bad. Because basically they are trying their luck on 2 different journals, and it's very easy for people to find out, because although we are editorial independent, because if that paper is sent out for review, it's quite likely that the same batch of the same reviewers may be asked to review the papers for these 2 journals, and the reviewers, of course, know. They say, I received requests from 2 different journals on reviewing the same paper. So it's very easy to be found out. So we ask the authors not to do this, and we will put a remark. Yeah, but if you ask me, do we blacklist reviewers? Yeah, okay, sometimes, because if we think that a reviewer is not fair, or sometimes they can be, I wouldn't say blacklist. As I say, we will put a remark next to this name and say that this reviewer is a little bit too slow. Too slow. Don't use him in the future. Try not to use him in the future. Or sometimes the reviewer can be too brief, maybe just 2-3 sentences. For one occasion is okay, but always, to come back only with 2 or 3 sentences. I like this paper because it's very nice and it should be published. So if this kind of reports is sent to us from the same reviewer, we will put a remark as well next to this reviewer and say, try not to use this reviewer because he's too brief. Yeah. So we do not blacklist. We will just put a remark next to them. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody having query, please unmute themselves and ask their query directly to ma'am.
Thank you. Diana, you had a question? She's there. She left. She left. So I have a question, Dr. Wong. So recently I saw that Nature published supplementary data as well as review comments along with the manuscript. What data should we present in the supplementary, and what should be kept in the manuscript? How to decide on that?
I see. If it is something that is very directly related to the key findings of your work, this should be included in the main text. Yep. Okay. But if it is something like just to support the argument of maybe to prove that the accuracy, or maybe something that is related but not directly, it can be in the supplementary data file. Yeah. So, or sometimes they just the reviewers just want you to do some small experiment to rule out some possibility. That is also something that you can include as a supplementary data. Yeah. So we only allowed 6 figures in the main text, or maybe 6 figures for article and 5 figures for letters. So you really have to make the most of this space, to put up the most relevant data or results in the main text of the paper. And those that is marginally or something not directly related, try to put in a supplementary data. So if you have a question or doubts about what to be included, you can always ask the editor. And sometimes the reviewers can just point you, the way to do it. Like, oh, we do not think this is relevant, it should be moved to this side. So yeah. But when you are doing the submission, don't think too much about that. Just make sure that you put the key findings, key data in the main text, and then some supplementary figures in the supplementary data file. If there is any modification, you will be suggested. They will suggest you to do that. Yeah, at a later stage, before the acceptance of the paper or publication of the paper.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Yes, ma'am. What I am going to ask is that, is there any place where I should know about the guidelines, that how should I publish my paper as per the norms of the editor?
Yeah, in all the nature and if you're asking about nature journals,
Yeah.
in all the websites of the journals, you can find this author guidelines link. Yeah, and in that link, you can find all the information about number of words, number of figures, the kind of guidelines for writing the paper. Yeah, author guidelines in all the nature journals. So you have to go to the title, the website of the title, to go to author guidelines.
Offer guidelines.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Wong.
Yeah, hi.
I'm a graduate student. I just started my graduate studies in photonics, and this was a very insightful talk. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
My question was, I was looking at the fees that you had mentioned for for publishing in open access nature journals, and is there a fee reduction or some kind of compensation that nature provides for developing countries such as India or like any other developing country there is?
Yeah, I think I'm not so sure about this part of the this part of the policy or agreement. So I think I would need to look into it before I say something wrong. So I'm not sure about that. But one thing that I can say is there are 3 options here, for this new thing to happen. So most of the funders now, they want the university, the funded university to publish their papers open access. So if these universities are receiving funding from these funders, they actually can get the funding, publication funding, to pay for this open access fee. So it's not from the university, it's from the funders, because these funders want you to make your paper open access and they agree to do so. So you can get the funding from them to pay for the open access APC. Yeah. So, and if, of course, if you don't have this money to pay for this APC for the open access, we have a second option, which is called guided open access. So it is about half of the price of this 9,500 euros. So because you can see from here, you can see, right? I think I'm sharing my screen. So we only ask for about 4,790 in total, or maybe less. If it is in the communication journals, to make your paper published as open access paper. So if it's too expensive for you to pay for 9,500 and no funders are supporting you, you can go for the second option, which is guided open access, which is cheaper. And of course, we always have this option available for you if you can't afford to pay for anything, which is the traditional way of subscription route. So you still publish papers, but it's just that your paper is not made open access, but it's only viewable for subscribers or the libraries that subscribe to the nature journals. So there are still options here for you if you can't afford this APC.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone have any question? They may unmute themselves. Okay, I think no one have further question. So I'd like to thank Dr. Wan for the very insightful talk and clearing all our queries. And it was really nice to have you here. And I thank you for spending some of your valuable time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also thank every participants for sparing their time and participating and giving and attending this talk. Thank you, everyone, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Kashyap. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bond.
Thank you so much.
So it is our pleasure and honor to hear you. And really, you have spared your valuable time out of your busy schedule, right? And you have spent a lot of time with us. So thank you very much. And we look forward to hear you again, maybe in future also.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation and all these things. Yeah.
I request everyone for a digital selfie, kindly switch on their camera so that we can have a selfie with our speaker.
You have to get ready.
Amit?
I think people are too shy.
Yeah.
Okay. On 3. 1,
Hello.
2, 3.
Cheers.
Yeah.
It's done?
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, okay. We can take one more.
Okay.
A few people join us. Amit?
Yeah.
Amit, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll see you. Yeah. I'll see you all hopefully in person next time. Yeah. And for the meantime, take care.
Yeah.
You too.
If you are visiting to India, kindly visit our institute also.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully next year.
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Sure. Take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Keshaf. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Vaughn.
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Thank you. This meeting is concluded.
Bye.
Bye.